Malawi, one of the poorest countries in the world, has been faced with devastating floods after weeks of torrential rains. The raging floods have washed away roads and bridges and destroyed homes, leaving 200 people dead and more than 200,000 others homeless. Over 70,000 hectares of crops have been washed away, raising fears of hunger this year. 15 of the 28 districts in Malawi are the worst affected. These are the worst floods in the country's written history. And St. Andrews International High School in Blantyre collaborated with the Gift of the Givers Foundation to reach out to flood victims in Blantyre and Mulanje. Gift of the Givers Foundation has been in the forefront of the emergency response to the Malawi floods disaster. Gift of the Givers were the first relief agency to reach out to flood victims in areas which could not be accessed by roads. The Gift of the Givers has been working with the Malawi Defense Force to deliver aid to remote areas in the flood-affected districts of Nsanje and Chikwawa. And St. Andrews International High School took the opportunity to work with the Gift of the Givers Foundation to deliver emergency supplies to flood victims in Blantyre and Mulanje. Students at the school donated items which included foodstuffs, clothes, tents, cooking utensils, among others, to be distributed to the flood victims.
It's a donation from St. Andrews International High School. They've given us all these clothes, shoes, soap, salt, sugar, maize flour to give the people that the flood victims in different areas in Malawi.
As you can see, the response has been so overwhelming. People are providing us with food items of all kinds. They're providing us with maize flour. They're providing us with fish, beans, groundnuts. So this should really be helpful to those people who have been affected by the floods.
The donations of clothes targeted children and expectant mothers who have been displaced by the floods.
It's very different from what you're hearing. Actually seeing the devastation compared to what we're seeing in Blantyre, it really signifies actually how devastated the country is. And what's really quite sad is how little people know, even within the country and externally, internationally, how little grasp of the situation we have.
The St. Andrews students also took turns in distributing the food items from the Gift of the Givers Foundation to the flood victims.
There's chocolate here. It's sad to see the devastation, but at least we can do something about it. Adrian!
It feels good to be giving back to the community, especially after we weren't affected so much as these people. These people are very unfortunate, unlike us.
It's shocking, first of all, but I think that if we just find alternative ways to plant and keep the crops growing, use sacks, tires, there's a whole bunch of different methods, we just need to apply them.
We feel so honored to partner with St. Andrews. It shows that the whole country is concerned and every citizen of Malawi is concerned about these floods, and we're working together as Malawians to help the most needy, the victims that have been affected by the floods.
The Malawi floods disaster has affected the most vulnerable communities, destroying their livelihoods. Currently, the situation is still horrible. There's urgent need for more food and blankets in the camps. There's also a great risk of disease outbreaks such as cholera and other waterborne diseases, as the flood waters have contaminated the safe drinking water sources. Water purification tablets are needed in this emergency response. Stagnant waters are also attracting malaria-spreading mosquitoes, and there is urgent need for mosquito nets to avert a full-scale malaria outbreak. Most households lost everything in the floods. Clothing, blankets, and cooking utensils may help restore their lives. Most of these households have lost all their crops and livestock in the disaster. Food aid is needed as an emergency relief, but as a long-term measure, the smallholder farmers may need maize seeds as well as fertilizer to replant to avert a hunger crisis this year. And weather forecasts predicts that there will be more torrential rains in the coming week, raising fears of more floods. St. Andrews International High School is still collaborating with the Gift of the Givers Foundation on how well they can come in and help the flood victims. Malawi is crying out to the world for support.